18 minutes. That's all it took for the fastest ocean liner in the world to vanish beneath the Atlantic. 11 miles from a coast her passengers could see with their own eyes. Nearly 1,200 would die that afternoon, and their deaths would help drag a reluctant America into the Great War. This is how it happened. It begins 6 days earlier. 6 in the morning, the 30th of April, a Friday, the unluckiest day to put to sea. The German Navy doesn't care. The submarine U-20 slips out of Emden under orders to round Scotland and hunt the approaches to Liverpool. Her commander, Captain Lieutenant Walter Schwieger, 30 years old, charming, adored by his crew. He keeps Dachshund puppies aboard his submarine. At one point, 6 of them. A man, biographer Eric Larson wrote, as likely to nurse a litter of pups as to send a passing ship to the bottom. Life inside U-20 is its own kind of hell. A steel tube reeking of diesel, sweat, and tobacco. 35 men, hot bunking among the torpedoes. Submerged, they run blind and silent on batteries as the air turns thick and full. And one man alone decides who lives and dies. The eye at the periscope. That same day, an ocean away, the Lusitania prepares to leave New York. In the morning papers, the German embassy has printed a chilling warning, placed deliberately right beside Cunard's own advertisement. Barely a passenger cancels. At noon, she casts off for Liverpool with 1,960 souls aboard. And what a ship she is, the fastest liner afloat, as richly appointed, Larson wrote, as an English country house, a veteran of 200 crossings. But to save coal, Cunard has shut down one of her 4 boiler rooms. Her top speed drops from 25 knots to 21. Remember that number. At the helm stands Captain William Turner, gruff, capable, old-fashioned. He still trusts the unwritten gentleman's rules of the sea, the ones that had always spared passenger ships. No liner, he is certain, can ever be caught by a submarine. He could not be more wrong. While the Lusitania steams east in comfort, U-20 is already hunting, rounding the top of Scotland and slipping down the wild western coast of Ireland, straight toward the shipping lanes. And here is the secret that changes everything. In a hidden office in London, room 40, British codebreakers are quietly reading Germany's naval signals. They know U-20 has sailed. They know where she is bound. They could warn the Lusitania. They never do. And Turner isn't even told room 40 exists. On board, a who's who of the age. Alfred Vanderbilt, one of the richest men in America, who had once booked the Titanic, and by sheer luck, never sailed. Asked if he fears the U-boats, he only laughs. What would they gain by sinking the Lusitania? Sailing with him, Charles Frohman, the Broadway king who gave the world Peter Pan, and a quiet Boston bookseller carrying Dickens's own annotated Christmas Carol. Millionaires and stowaways, newlyweds and grandmothers, and 33 infants asleep in their cradles, with no idea where they are going. The 5th of May. Off the old head of Kinsale, U-20 draws first blood, sinking a small schooner with her deck gun, but giving the crew time to row clear. Schwieger is still playing by the old rules. That is about to change. That evening, room 40 fixes U-20's position, sitting squarely across the Lusitania's path. It is the one warning that could save them all. But the Admiralty is looking elsewhere, guarding a battleship. Churchill himself had written that if neutral ships ran into trouble, better still. The 6th of May. Near the Königberg lightship, U-20 sinks 2 more steamers, the Candidate and the Centurion. The southern approaches have become a killing ground, littered with wreckage and warnings. And still, not a word of it reaches the Lusitania, now just hours away. Dawn, the 7th of May. The Lusitania slips into the war zone and straight into a wall of fog. She slows, sounding her horn into the grey. A safer route exists, north over the top of Ireland. The Admiralty knows it. They never say a word. Turner steams on toward the coast, And then, fate intervenes. Aboard U-20, Schwieger is almost out of fuel and down to his last 3 torpedoes. He has given up. He is turning for home. And at that very moment, just after 11, the fog rolls back, and a vast 4-funneled shape rises out of the haze, filling his horizon. 20 past 1. Through the cramped eye of the periscope, Schwieger watches and waits. At first, the angle is hopeless. She will pass him by, and then the great liner turns. Turner, steadying his course to fix his position, swings her, unknowingly, into a perfect line of fire. Schwieger misjudges her speed by a few knots. It will not matter. He settles the crosshairs on her hull, just behind the bridge, and gives the order to fire. 10 past 2. From 700 meters, a single torpedo streaks through the water. High on the bow, the young lookout Leslie Morton sees the white track and screams, "Torpedoes! Starboard side!" There is no time to turn. It strikes home, just behind the bridge. And then, something far worse. A second, monstrous explosion tears through her from deep inside, far heavier than the torpedo, hurling coal and water above the funnels. It is so violent, it rocks the submerged U-boat. To this day, no one knows for certain what it was. She lurches hard to starboard and never recovers. Her engines still driving her forward. She plows ahead even as she goes down, and the lifeboats turn to death traps, swinging out of reach or grinding down the riveted hull, spilling people into the sea. On the tilting deck, the smallest moments become legend. Vanderbilt, who cannot swim, calmly straps his own lifebelt onto a young mother. Frohman faces the rising water and quotes his Peter Pan. Why fear death? It is the most beautiful adventure. They have minutes left. Through the periscope, Schwieger reads her name in golden letters, Lusitania. He has the angle for a second torpedo. He cannot do it. Not into, in his words, this crushing crowd of humanity trying to save their lives. He takes the boat deep and turns away. 18 minutes after the torpedo struck, it is over. The Lusitania is gone, 11 miles from a shore her passengers could see with their own eyes, but would never reach. Now the real horror begins, because the water is cold enough to kill in minutes. Hundreds cling to wreckage and overturned boats, waiting for help that isn't coming. Some grow warm and drowsy and quietly slip under. Children go limp in their parents' arms. One survivor will last 3.5 hours before rescue. No warship ever comes. In the end, it is the fishing boats of Queenstown, the little Wanderer of Peel, the paddle steamer Flying Fish, that finally reach the survivors, hours too late, carrying back the living and long rows of the dead. Some 600 are never found at all. When the count is finally done, the scale of it lands like a blow. Of 1,960 aboard, 1,197 are dead. 128 of them American, 94 of them children. Of 33 infants, only 2 survive. Then comes the cover-up. The Admiralty buries what Room 40 knew and tries to pin the disaster on Captain Turner. The inquiry clears him, but its own judge calls the whole affair a damned dirty business. Schwieger himself is dead within 2 years, his U-boat lost with all hands. America does not go to war, not yet. President Wilson insists the nation is too proud to fight. But something has changed. The Lusitania has lit a slow fuse, burning straight through the American conscience. 2 years later, almost to the week, the United States enters the First World War. 1,197 people went into the water that afternoon, in sight of land. The Lusitania took just 18 minutes to die. More than a century on, she still lies where she fell, off the old head of Kinsale, and some of her questions have never been answered.